Hey, welcome. Peace, blessings to all those who are tuning in to my very, very, very first broadcast of the Prison Wife Chronicles. It's going to be hosted by your girl, April. Um, I'm excited to be here. I'm absolutely excited. I feel like we finally get a chance as women or, other significant others who've been on this side of things to have a sit down, a chit chat, a whole situation, and really just have some open dialogue about what goes on in and out of relationships surrounding prison. Unfortunately, it is something that we all know quite so well. Rather, it's a friend, a family member, your mama, maybe your daddy went through something like that. It's something that we are all exposed to, and I feel like as a woman married to my husband, many of you all know Christopher Willers. He is the founder of D100 TV. So salute to him. First of all, for just giving me the opportunity to have a platform to kind of have some open discussion and dialogue. He did over 17 years in prison. I did be with him for a while. So I feel like I might have a little bit of insight when it comes to some of, unfortunately, relationships surrounding prison, rather it's your loved one, your family member, or your significant other. So we're gonna talk about some things. I'm really excited. I see, we have a couple, people that are tuning in. So first of all, thank you for tuning in to the 100 TV's The Prison Wife Chronicles. Welcome to the show. All right. So I'm going to introduce myself. Let some of you all know a little bit about me if you have not had a chance to get to know me. I have been doing a segment on V100 TV. It's called Love versus Prison, where my husband and I talk about many different things surrounding prison relationships. We've been married for over 3 years. We're going on year number 4 pretty soon. We've been together for over 5. So, I feel like we're definitely qualified to speak on some things. We may not be experts on everything, but we're definitely qualified to speak on it because we are literally living it. So if you have any questions for me, you can email me questions at lastinglayersofbeauty@gmail.com. I actually have my husband. He'll be assisting along the way, in the other room just to kind of help out. So thank you for that, sweetie. I do appreciate that. So a couple things about me. I am 40 now, so I'm over the 40 club. I feel like I'm officially kind of like definitely not a triple OG, but I definitely feel like I'm OG status now. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, born and raised, 7 Mile all day. It's just kind of like where I'm from, what I'm doing. Grew up, had, a lot of the same, siblings share the same background as me, grew up below the poverty line, obviously, off of 7 Mile, went to several high schools and middle schools and such, and, kind of had a pretty rough upbringing. As a child, actually, I was used to going in and out of prisons to go visit my biological father. I was raised by my stepdad, Prince, so a lot of people know him as my dad, but there's a whole nother side to me. I actually have a book that I wrote. Shout out to Amazon who carries it, About to Lose It, where I talk about my past childhood, growing up in the prison system, as a child of someone in the prison system, being directly affected and being a justice impacted person. So I grew up going to go see my father in visitation. I actually got married at age 19, and that ex husband actually went away for 2 years in prison, and that's what a lot of people don't know about me as well. So I'm 40 now. Obviously I was 19 when that happened. Chris's life, took a different turn in 19. His, was kind of going into that direction. And I actually was placed in that same situation way back then. So fast forward, moving throughout my life, had, tons of jobs in customer service. A lot of people know that we have a hair school now. I've been doing hair since I was a youngin'. A lot of people know me from doing hair. So, salute to my clients and, people who have afforded me the opportunity to do weddings and such. But I grew up doing that. I also, I left Detroit in 2006. I lived in Hawaii. I worked on a cruise ship, started working in customer service, hospitality, hotels, and stayed in that industry until it actually brought me right back around to hair. While I was doing my thing, learning, cultivating, growing, eventually became a teacher. That's when I met Christopher, as I was connecting with him in order to do some type of business. And so that's how we connected. Fast forward, that connection grew into a friendship. That friendship evolved into a marriage that took place while he was still incarcerated. For him to come home, relocate to a whole nother state. And now he is down here in Atlanta, and we have been living together, breathing together, and just really working through just a whole relationship outside of prison, which started behind bars. So that's just a little bit about me. I really feel like we need this platform to just have some open dialogue and also support for those who may be in a similar situation. I did not have, or I feel like I did not have any support. I didn't have anybody I can really talk to about this portion of my life and relationship with Christopher while he was behind bars. I didn't have anybody, to kind of mentor me or kind of tell me, whether or not this is something that you should do or you shouldn't do. We kind of just went for it. So just I'll be getting more into detail about what actually I feel like makes it work and makes it be successful, and then maybe some signs along the way that maybe you feel like, oh my God, that's a red flag. I saw that, maybe I should run the other way. Our relationship is not the only successful relationship that I know of. I know of many others, what I mean, that have been successful. But for those, successful relationships, I probably know the same amount of relationships that actually failed or didn't make it. So, we're going to get into all of that today. But shout out to everybody. Shout out to Tiffany. Thank you. Shout out, to everybody tuning in. Thank you for listening to the backstory. And then just thank you for being a part of this. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead, throw them in the chat. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, also just everywhere, even Instagram. So, thank you for everybody that's tuning in. And we're going to get into, the topic for the day. So, I actually named this topic all about a check. And I think when you hear that initially, you probably think, yeah, maybe I'm talking about some money, or, I'm talking about, running the bag up. When we hear, all about the check, we automatically, I think our eyes just automatically just like light up dollar signs. But I just feel like we really need to kind of pinpoint and check off some boxes, when you're dealing with somebody in a situation like this. First of all, you need to know what you can about the individual. Some people get into the situation after the individual is already incarcerated. Some people find themselves reconnecting with people via, social media, sometime by way of email, maybe through a friend, maybe through a visit with somebody else. Like, you really want to know is your partner going to be exactly, what he or she says they are when you're going through this whole ordeal? Because who's to say, at the end of the day, rather you have lived with the person or haven't lived with the person or intent on living with the person, the experience that they're going through and the experience and the walk and the journey that they're taking right now is definitely something that they're going to have to heal from. Something that they're going to have to recoup from, something that they're going to actually have to take some time to reflect and actually, kind of deprogram from that setting. Prison, I've only spent, time in jail. I've never spent any time in prison. I didn't even get as far back as general population. So for me, I know the impact that it had on me just for, some hours and hours on end. I can only imagine for somebody who actually had to go through the system, had to do it for years, what's going on in their mind, from day to day and thought to thought. I can only imagine. So, we're going to try to get through and navigate through some of these things so that you can be prepared for that individual when they come home, if they come home, or maybe you said to yourself, hey, I decide to go ahead and just bid it out with the individual. They may or may not be coming home. Maybe you made the decision to just still do it anyway, and you don't even know. Maybe they don't even have a date yet. So these are some of the things we're going to just kind of discuss, and some of the things that hopefully bring you some type of empathy, some type of, feeling of support, or just some type of encouragement so that you don't feel like you by yourself. I know I didn't want to disclose my relationship with hardly anybody. There were very, very few people that I felt comfortable enough to actually talk to about dating somebody or possibly being serious or connecting with somebody in prison. So if you have any questions, if you have just, I don't know, just any thoughts or even concerns that you feel like, dang, well, I thought about this. Do you think that this is cool, April? You know what I mean? Just hit me up and I'll be happy, you know what I mean, to try to give you as much light as I can. I can only do so much, but, whatever I do know, I'm willing to share. All right. So when we're talking about these checks, all right, we're talking about these checks. A lot of people want to know, I feel like, or they raise a question like, is this even worth the going past the talking phase? Or is it even worth going past the dating phase? Or how about you just entertaining it just a little bit? And maybe you just saying to yourself, like, I really think he cool, he look good, or she, she got a little, she got a little spunk to her, she a little rough around the edges, but it's something about her that I really, really like. A lot of people think, how, can I really gauge whether or not I'm getting played? And then the second part to that is, we're going to go into these checks and balances. And that's what I'm talking about when we talk about, what about that check? One of the things that I've talked about in the past, some of the past episodes, and that's why I say I hope when you get a chance, go visit, at V100 TV on YouTube, so you can see some of these backstories within, the prison, Love versus Prison series that we have. But I knew that Christopher had a strong work ethic because I literally have not physically seen, but I have heard, I have observed, and kind of assessed the situation as much as I could and as much as possible based on just observation and conversation. And maybe for somebody else, that may not seem like enough or a lot, but I feel like if you're in a situation with somebody, and they say, I got a job, or, you know what I mean? Whether they work in the kitchen, you know what I mean? Or maybe they just a part of a GED program, he had stuff to keep him occupied and busy. And the reason I feel like you should be able to kind of gauge that is because how much does this individual try to contact you? How much free time do they actually have? If they have a whole lot of free time and they don't have a coordinated schedule, I feel like you have your answer rather than not. This person is actually engaged in activities that he or she is saying that they are doing. You know what I mean? We had a phone schedule. So I think that even when you're dating somebody out here on the outside, some people got a whole rotation, you know what I mean? And they rotating, they females, or, maybe they rotating guys. And maybe you could be the Tuesday, Wednesday, and, maybe somebody else is the Friday, Saturday. That even happens out here. But what I'm saying is, if you're dealing with somebody and they're consistent and they're giving you their word and they say it's their word, I feel like 9 times out of 10, you should be able to gauge whether or not the person is being truthful about, what they're doing. You know what I mean? Chris had a specific schedule. So with that specific schedule, he only gonna call me at certain times. He didn't have free time. He couldn't deviate away from that. Also, while we've been together behind those walls, he was able to obtain his barber's license. So that showed me, I had to actually follow up and call the board for certain things. There were certain certificates or whatever, he had that he was able, to either tell me about, or I was able to do my own research and due diligence. So there's a way to have a checks and balances system with your significant other to kind of know and get a gauge on if they're telling the truth. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I feel like this. I feel like it's almost impossible to not know if somebody is taking advantage of you. Prime example, I only put money on the phone. Christopher he did not want me to put money on his books, period. The first time I tried to put money on Chris's books, that was it. You know what I mean? He called me up immediately. He told me not to put no money on it. He was like, I got it, and we talked about it. He worked, and that was our deal. For me, as a woman, it showed me that he was being a real man in the situation, even though he was still in prison. So here it is. You got this grown man telling me, I don't need X, Y, and Z. If you do want to contribute as a woman, if you do want to contribute, just put the money on the phone. And then, I got it from here. I felt like that was like just some king stuff to do. You know what I mean? Like, it was kingly. You know what I mean? It was supportive. It was righteous. You know what I mean? And I've also seen people being taken advantage of in a way where I felt like, dang, you know what I mean? Like you putting money on the phone, you putting money, on books, like in y'all on the phone all day and night. Sometimes y'all just holding the phone, and that's kind of confusing. Even when people do it out here, just regularly, like I feel like if somebody is into you. People are going to put the type of time in if they want it to work, and if they want to build on it, and if they want it to grow. Even in between visits. Now you got to think about it. We were in a long distance relationship at that. So with us having a long distance relationship, we were not even seeing each other as much. So if we didn't have anything to build off of, no type of substance in our conversation whatsoever, it wouldn't have worked. I would not have been able to keep his attention because I had my own stuff going on outside of him. And B, it would not have been conducive. You know what I mean? Like, I was in a building phase of my life. So there were certain things that I just couldn't bend on. You know what I mean? You hit certain phases of your life, and you got stuff that you want to take care of, and you want to be on point. And that's what I was doing for myself. Hey, daughter. And so, when you're in this phase of your life of building, that person has to be able to compliment you. And that doesn't matter. That don't matter like where you are. Rather, that person is locked up or not. They have to be able to complement what you already have going on. So if you don't already have something going on, then it's probably going to really rob you in the end anyway. And that's something that we both had. He had his own path. I had my own path. And together we was able to establish what could be done and what could not be done. So with both of us trying to make it work, and both of us being in two different spaces in life, but just think about it. This is somebody who had did, by the time he met me, he had almost did 15 years already. I would imagine going in at 19, getting out at 30 something. I'm probably trying to be in these streets. You know what I mean? So for us to even have a conversation about that part, for him to even acknowledge and be like, look, I'm just trying to be grounded. This is a lot, that I've endured. I've always, and he was a street guy, but at the same time, he was always a type of person that wanted to gravitate towards his own family. You know what I mean? Christopher was adopted. So you talking about coming out later on, you want to build with somebody that want to have kids. You know what I mean? We got the same thing in mind where we both focus. We both want a future. We both want to build. We both want to level up. I feel like this is going to be related, or relatable over the course of the conversations that you having. So if you're in a situation with somebody, is it that they're just really just trying to pass time and just trying to, talk to you and figure out like, hey, like, are you their entertainment? You know what I mean? Hey, LaShanta, like, are you their entertainment, or are you just, you know what I mean, just passing time? Like, it got to be some type of agenda, whether it's a positive one or it's a negative one. Like, what do you actually have in mind? So that's something. Now, all about a check. So one thing that I've learned, just in my growth as a woman, coming into my own, I've had, battles with my own mental health, people around me have, including my husband, close family members. I do know that checks and balances has to be in order. And there's no way that you can deal with somebody coming home from prison if you have trauma that you have not dealt with. And I'm not going to say that I was 100% when Chris came home either, because during the course of the marriage, there has been times where I've had to go to therapy too, just like him, and I'm talking about my own personal therapy, me fighting my own and battling my own demons. You know what I mean? So I'm just being real when I say that. There's certain checks and balances that I have to have in place, just period, for myself. And I had to know that the person that I was dealing with, had at least somewhat of familiarity of what it was that I was trying to accomplish too in my own life. There were 5 things that I've learned in my journey that you actually have to have. And this is going to let you know whether or not that person is whole. And even if they are whole, you can be a whole person, or let me say this, you can be aware and maybe you're not whole yet, but you're still going through your healing process, if that makes sense. And I feel like we were both open enough to at least know what we was going to have to build towards, at least know what it was that we was going to have to heal from, so that we could actually push forward just as adults, just in life. You know what I mean? Nobody said, hey, I'm perfect from jump. You know what I mean? But in the course of learning each other, you gonna see, some flaws. You gonna see some issues that you may have in your partner because you're looking in the mirror. So the 5 things that I wanted to talk about specifically was, and it doesn't have to be, when I say this word, it's literally a generalized statement. And I also teach this to my students too. And the first one is the spiritual. Is it something that you and that person, are you connecting at least spiritually on some type of wavelength? Some people say is the vibe, some people call it different things. But for us, I had to be able to connect with him spiritually. I specifically asked in my prayers, I needed a covering. That was just me though. You know what I mean? Somebody else might not want that. Maybe they just want to find men that lift weights, and they want some good D. But for me, I needed a covering. So that was specifically inside of that spiritual bubble. The second part of that was educational. One time we spoke about actually keeping our minds focused, grounded, and sharpened. One thing that I wanted him to look up was cryptocurrency. I felt like, there were certain strong suits in our family, things that bring us together cohesively and bind us together. Like there are certain strong suits that each individual have. So for him, with this specific thing, as we're bidding, hey, can you look up everything that you can about cryptocurrency? That kept his mind busy. It was something that was feeding him because it was educational. So it allowed the time, regardless if we were to make it or not, thank God we did, but at least somebody learning something and taking away something. You know what I mean? What if it had been a mistake or ended up being a mistake? I still would have wanted it to be a learning opportunity. You know what I mean? So that's something that we had to get past, or at least acknowledge this is something that's going to make it cohesive. The third thing was health. He is a health nut. My health is probably at a not anymore, or not currently, but I wasn't into health the way he was into health. He's a health nut. So for me, I needed to be around somebody that was stronger in the area where I was lacking. And he did that for me. You know what I mean? Working out and running 10 miles and everything that he was doing, he was still maintaining that. Even in the situation that he was in, it was something that he was facing and something that he was addressing. It has to be like that for you and anybody. You know what I mean? These are one of the main things that individuals should be addressing, especially over 40. The fourth thing was financial. I asked for that social security number. I asked him, could I build his credit up? And I also, the first question before I even asked those two was, what does your debt look like? Do you have any debt? You could be dealing with somebody that got a whole lot of debt. You might be dealing with somebody that got zero credit, and you can build them up. And before you know it, y'all in the clear. By the time Chris came home, he had a 700 credit score. I wanted to make sure, again, that I'm still feeding everything out of this 5, that we're actually building within this bubble. And that's what we did. The fifth thing was, and I think this kind of ties back into, I had made a comment earlier about, what if you might have this notion like, dang, well, what if I'm getting played? What their social circle look like? You know what I mean? When I heard about Christopher, and I'm not saying, obviously everybody may or may not do this, but I heard that he was a public speaker. I heard that he was actually giving counsel and having retreats and workshops. So I'm thinking, he has a good reputation, but then, I could have spoken to a different individual, or maybe they knew him, 10 years prior. They may say something different. But where he was in life and being able to have, some type of witness accord, or some type of person to bear witness to the character, that you are dealing with. Does he have a great relationship, or she have a great relationship with their mom, or do they have children out here? Are they still in constant contact? Do they even know where their kids go to school? So it's a lot of different things that I would feel like kind of go in that, with that, checking that person's resume. Man, you can check somebody's resume. Chris looked up, he actually looked me up, and he saw that I had a mug shot. You know what I mean? So it does go both ways. But on this side of things, how are you able to really decipher, if that person is being real? And the only way to tell, and that's whether somebody is, on the inside or they're on the outside, judging by their walk, so to speak. You gotta look at their walk, what they doing every day. What is their focus? Maybe they're a gamer. Maybe they like, to game, but are you a gamer too? Is that something that you can connect on? You know what I mean? Is the person just a hard worker, but they like the best hard worker ever? Maybe they like having 6 jobs. Are you going to be okay with them working as hard as they do and not being at home all the time? You know, even especially as a woman, thinking about somebody that just did all this time, how am I, able to keep up with somebody like this? What if they got a ferocious sexual appetite? You know what I mean? Just saying, just keeping it absolutely 100. Is that something that you're gonna be willing to deal with? But even on top of that, do they have a wandering eye? Have you seen them in the visiting room? Do you see them, looking? I mean, this is stuff. This is stuff we got to talk about. This is stuff we got to address. So I feel like if you, observe, if you literally look, listen, you know what I mean, have these conversations and don't be scared to talk about the smallest to the greatest of things in the most amount of detail possible, if you can. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be willing to talk about every single detail. Don't let the time just pass by, on not filling it with things that are of substance and valuable. Like, you got to be able to do that. The first thing that I did, when I met Chris on the phone was, and this is something he, brings up, is I prayed for him, but that just showed him where I was with it. So I didn't have to necessarily, I wasn't even really trying to show my representative from the get-go, and kind of, so to speak, because even in the first call, I still was like, what's your name? How many kids you got? You know what I mean? Just still being me. But at the same time, I just feel like I was able to still connect in a way where it still showed myself and not the representative. And as long as you're doing that every day, you're going to see it. It's going to be revealed. The truth going to be revealed regardless. Rather, it's going to be for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. At the end of the day, it's just really going to be when the person gets home, are you going to have the patience to deal with the problems as they occur? Are you going to have the tolerance to be able to show a grown adult how to do simple things that maybe, we take for granted every day, and still allow that person to feel like the leader or the spouse, or in my, position, the man in the relationship? Even before he came home, I was consulting him on things as my husband, because we got married while he was still locked up. I was still consulting him as my husband on the phone. Now, I'm not saying, to each his own. Maybe I didn't have to do that, but I did it because I'm his wife. You know what I mean? I'm going to try to treat the situation as if he was already, here. And I feel like because of that, because I put myself in a vulnerable position, I'm blessed for that. And I thank God for that he came home and he did exactly what he said he was going to do. But I actually saw along the way. It's not like, he just popped home and, boom, it was just one thing after another. No, man, we was building the whole time. I was still grinding. I was still hustling. He was doing the same. He was still working. Hey, Sharon. There was just a lot going on, but we did not stay, like, we didn't steer away from our common goals. And that brings me to the last thing. You got to be able to share some type of vision, share some type of goals, something in common. Chris wasn't into beauty, barbering, or, none of that. But when he told me about it, I got so excited because I was like, dang, that's free education. I was like, you know how much that's worth? That could be worth 10 to 20 racks easy just of education. I'm like, man, wouldn't that be dope? And he did it. You know what I mean? So it could be something, somebody tell you, maybe they don't feel like, maybe they've been in the inside too long and they don't feel like it's something that motivates them. You got to be the motivator. And it was hard to motivate Chris on some days. I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna be real about it. It was hard, to keep the motivation going from day to day. Because what if I was going through something? But I had to constantly be a motivator. And you're gonna be tested. You're gonna be tested. You're gonna be tested. Your patience is gonna be tested. You know, everything is gonna be tested. Your loyalty is gonna be tested. And at the end of the day, as long as you are keeping it absolutely honest with each other along every step of the journey, I feel like it's owed to both parties to continue to keep it open and honest. There was a portion of the journey where we thought Chris was coming home, and he had shared with me that he had to do 2 more years. Now at this time we was just like, we was together, but we was dating, but it wasn't like we hadn't got to the marriage part yet. You know what I mean? He told me, hey, I'm gonna be in here for, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be in here for 2 more years. You with me? And I said, yeah. You know what I mean? So it was just that simple. But it doesn't mean that I didn't have an option or a choice. And I wasn't just telling him something that he wanted to hear either. I was serious about it in my own way. I was serious about it for my own walk. And I just had to be honest with myself. Now, again, I had my own agenda. I had my own things going on. So 2 years for me to be faithful, 2 years to sit my A down somewhere and be still, 2 years for me from that point forward, it was well worth it because that's what I needed to do anyway. I was at a point in my life where I needed to be focused. I needed to be consistent. I needed things to happen for me. So it helped me. So is this person an asset or are they a liability? You know what I mean? He was an asset for me. He was able to teach me. He was able to mold me. He was able to console me sometimes. You know what I mean? He was able to feed me, and he was able to feed my spirit. He was able to compliment me. So if they're not adding any value to your life, then what you doing anyway? Because at the end of the day, like if we just wasted time. Listen. I don't recommend anybody wasting time. It don't matter if somebody is behind the prison walls or not. Like, you should not be wasting time. I'm sorry. I'm that person. I need to know your credit score. Man, when I was still dating in my 30s before Chris, what your credit look like? What's your goals? What you trying to do in the next 5 years? Where you trying to live? What's your expectations? You know what I mean? What's your desires? What turn you on? What turn you off? Like, it's certain things that you should have no issues on talking about off rip, like out the gate. It's some things that we should just be able to know, and you shouldn't have to dig for it. You know what I mean? I'm not into wasting time. If that's the type of time you want, then that's what you should be on. And if you're in a relationship with somebody and the relationship is what it is, I think that everybody in a relationship should know each other's expectations. What up, cousin? You know what I mean? Everybody should know everybody's expectations. Are you the type of person that can't go without? Can you be celibate? Can you not be celibate? You know what I mean? Like, that needs to be discussed. You know what I mean? Is it somebody that are you kicking it with how many people? How many visits you get on a regular? You know what I mean? Is somebody else putting money on the phone? Is somebody else putting money on, giving you stamps? Like, this is stuff that we need to talk about as adults. You know what I mean? Like, what else is popping? How many people are in your circle? Did they really get, first of all, did they get locked up for what they said they got locked up for? Sometimes we don't even know the whole story and the whole truth. I know people that did not know the whole story of somebody's case. Have you done your own homework and your own research on the individual? Because I know, and regardless of what situation or what side of the fence you on, I told you, Chris did, he did a background check on me. Go figure. But if you want to know, you want to know and you need to know. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go through the comments. I'm gonna see if there's been any questions. But again, I want to thank y'all for the support. And I want to thank y'all for popping on them comments. And thank you for sharing, everybody. And thank you for all the thank yous. I understand what you mean about praying for your spouse before he became your spouse. Oh, no question. There were certain things that I had already had on my checklist before, I got married to anybody. And there were certain things that I was looking for. And he met those things. You know what I mean? The only thing that I really did not know of, and I'm gonna be honest, which is, what he showed me, is basically, for me, it's minute. But you can't physically see, obviously, somebody's, like, their work ethic, but you can basically go by what they have shown you. And I talked about that in the beginning of the conversation. So did he come out here and outperform? Yeah, he's the busiest hustler that I know. Like, he's the first person on earth that can actually out hustle me. And anybody who knows me know that I hustle. And I hustle hard. I done hustle myself into a stroke. That's how hard I hustle. The second part of that is, with these individuals, if they're not about that action, you kind of might as well just throw in the towel. It doesn't make any sense to move forward with an individual, if they don't meet the needs. And everybody should have some bottom lines. Everybody. It don't matter the situation. You should have some bottom lines. Certain things you good with, certain things you're not good with. Because Chris he's different than when I met him. But when I met him, I felt like, he had a void in his heart. It was something that I had prayed about. I actually prayed literally that he could know who his parents were. But it was something that I carried to myself. It wasn't something that I just, hey, you need to, you know what I mean? This is something that no, it wasn't like that. It actually came in a random phone call. We were sitting up laughing and joking. And, I ended up finding out who his biological parents were. But again, these were certain things that I wanted for myself. And it wasn't with selfish intent or selfish harm or selfish purpose. You know what I mean? It was certain that I literally needed for myself, for us to move forward in order to be successful. So it was my own personal desire. I feel like God granted it, and he revealed it. And I feel like he was made whole in some of these areas, on top of us just addressing the regular stuff that we address every day. What's up, Tori? Thank you, Dollface. And hey, sis. Yeah, so always, in all things, you gotta have some bottom lines, and you gotta be able to have, certain demands that you want for yourself, and you got to have self-care. You got to have a routine for yourself, even despite, going through this situation with the individual. Like, it gotta be times where you're not attached to that phone. That was something that I feel like literally in some moments, not all, but in some moments just drove me crazy. You know what I mean? It got to be some type of downtime where you can regroup and put the focus and shift the focus on yourself. I honestly felt I prayed for a man like my man now. I just feel so confused that his incarceration happened. Out of all things, this is the only thing, or it's the only thing that's crazy to me. Listen, I've seen some miracles, and they haven't always been, or the outcome hasn't been the way I would have expected the outcome to be. I'm hoping that it's a turnaround and it's just something that, maybe he has to go through to help other people. It's definitely what I told Christopher when we found out about him having to do an additional, or what we thought of, he could have been coming home every day or any day. And then it was an additional 2 years, added. So yeah, it may be different. Your situation could be different. Maybe you don't know of a date, you know what I mean, or whatever. And maybe it's just incarceration, period. But at the same time, you don't know, who he's going to help behind those walls. And unfortunately, we get put in positions where we got to go a different route to help other people. I'm definitely a servant, always been a servant. I feel like sometimes I get taken on a merry-go-round just for one sometimes, or in some cases, it could be 10 or 20. But I know that all my life I've been utilized to help other people. And unfortunately, when you are made and shaped in that fashion, we go through doors where a lot of people not going to understand why we got to even go through them doors. Quick story, and I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I was very, very close to my stepdad, and in 2000, what, 15? It was either 2000, I want to say 2015 or 16. I jumped up one day, and I moved to Houston, right? I left Atlanta, I ran away, I moved to Houston. I was basically just having a meltdown. I needed to change the scenery. I went down there. I knew a couple of people down there. It was nothing to rebuild, but I've never, I ain't got no kids, so it's nothing for me to just, take your tax money and you go dip and you start fresh. So that's what I did. I ended up talking to my dad after, because he was a mechanic. After my car caught on fire, I had no car in Houston. I couldn't get around. This is before, or I think Uber and Lyft was still kind of new. I was commuting basically by bus after not having a car, and it was going to be almost impossible for me to keep my job. So that brought me back here to Atlanta. From Atlanta, I helped. I came, got my job back, kept my job, but I ended up going on a leave of absence to help somebody in Detroit open up some salon suites, and I did it on a humbug. I did not get paid for it. Now, mind you, I'm just going to go help somebody. But at the same time, I'm just getting through a whole situation of cars catching fire, not being, you know what I mean? Things not working out, not wondering why it's successful. So I go up to Detroit. Nobody actually knows I'm up there at this time, living up there too. It's a true story. I was up there for 2 months in Detroit. Staying on the east side, helping a friend out. And my dad tells me, hey, yo, you need to go get back to the money. And I was like, what you mean? He was like, man, it's time for you to go back to Georgia. End up going back to Georgia. My dad passes 1 week later. 1 week later. Spent 2 months in Detroit. Got to spend so much time with my dad. But I said all of that to say this. Had I not gone through that full, like, roundabout, like, through all of the doors, it just seemed like it was just doors full of just BS. Like, I didn't even know why it happened, how it happened. And I just kept going through another door, boom. Then I just kept going through another door, boom. I would not have been able to spend that time with my dad. And that's true story. It would not have happened like that. I still would have been down here working my regular job. I probably would have been in school by then. Who knows? But I was exactly where I needed to be. And unfortunately, sometimes, we don't see the situation, in that way. Sometimes we see it as it could be a setback, but it really could be a setup for something that's so great to come. I really do hope and pray that it's a miracle that happens, and that your loved one is released, because it sounds to me like you have the perfect man and you just don't even understand, why this situation happened. But I do know this, when you are, a true servant, and when your heart is right, I just feel like God will grant you those desires. And if that is who it is you supposed to be with, you gonna be with him regardless if he in a situation or he not. And if you love him, you gonna ride with him, regardless. So I definitely, give you, my warmest regards. I wish you nothing but the best. And whenever you need confidence support, just pop on in over here, holla at me. I'll be happy, to maybe, crack a smile or two. But yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. It's plenty of women out here. We just don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. How many people, their cousins locked up, or their husband in and out? I done met so many people that man, you'll never even think about it. Like, it's just we don't talk about it. So if you are one of them ladies, and your significant other is locked up, I'm gonna be here. Tune in every Monday. It probably is gonna be at 7 o'clock. I said from the get-go it was supposed to be 6:30, but 7 is gonna be more like it. I'm gonna be popping in. We're just gonna be talking about some real substance. We're gonna be talking about how to get money. We're gonna be talking about hair tips, beauty tips. We're gonna be talking about stuff in the bedroom. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about real things that I feel like that affect like real people. This is the first time where I feel like I've been able to really speak my mind the way that I would like to. And I feel comfortable enough to do it. So if you have any questions, you got a week to get them into me, try to get them into me by Sunday. I just love you all. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for all the prayers. We just had a great vacation. We was able to get away. My husband booked a trip for us. I ain't have to book it. So I'm happy. I'm recharged. I'm motivated. And yeah, I love you all. I see, look, Mother Marion on there. Lord, thank you, Lord, that I ain't on here cussing or nothing. So that's it. It's been real. You're tuning in to the Prison Wife Chronicles. I'm your girl April, and what up, though? And now, so long. And I will see y'all soon. Tune in next week. Peace.